IVM.
Hi, I'm Satyajit.
Hi, I'm Rachita.
Welcome to Paperback by the Open Library Project.
To all our lovely listeners, a big thank you for listening to us and sharing your feedback.
For the people who just joined our community, here is a sneak peek into the first 20 episodes of Paperback.
Our 10 personal favorite picks from the books we discussed.
Happy listening. Welcome to Paperback by the Open Library Project. I am your co-host Satyajit, otherwise known as Onion Knight in most food circles. I'm hosting this podcast with my co-founder at the Open Library Project, Rachita Sharma.
Hi guys, my name is Rachita and I'm an ex-banker who gave up my banking profession to follow my passion and run libraries across the world. The Open Library Project is a non-fiction book library service offered to businesses on a subscription basis. We are trying to move away from the run-of-the-mill library concept by setting up rotational and locational curated libraries at co-working spaces, corporates and business incubators. The idea here is to create value, build a knowledge community and encourage a growth mindset amongst our members.
Today is a very special episode because we're going to be recapping our last 20 episodes, and Rachita and I will be choosing our 5 favorite reads which we may have, which may have influenced us while we were hosting this show. So yeah, we're going to start with Rachita's reads first. Rachita is going to tell us which are her books that she liked.
Yeah, so, through these 20 episodes, we've had like a crazy range of books that, people have spoken about. But there are 5 books which I read and they really stand out for me. And the first book is The Art of Thinking Clearly by Rolf Dobelli, which I think everybody who came on our show spoke about, that, this is a book that you should read. And this book also talks about, how we are limited by our thinking, and our thinking is limited by the biases we have. So It talks about, getting a clear account and sort of streamlining your thinking so that you can do away with your biases.
It also kind of outlines the biases, like we never knew all these things were biases. But at least I never knew that there were so many biases that inherently exist in us. And after reading the book, I just found myself questioning a lot of things and the way I used to think. And
also, it's so like, simply written, which is lovely. It's a very quick read. It's a very easy read. And you can also go back to it very often.
Right.
And I think in episode 3, Dr. Swati Lodha had spoken about this book. And I think it's a book which would be, pertinent to anybody and everybody.
It just inculcates a very clear and specific way of thinking about things. I think we don't think about our daily decisions enough. And this is what it kind of, the effect it had on me was that I started thinking about why I'm doing these things, and am I doing it because I'm biased in some way, or started questioning my own biases. And of course, it's one of the easiest books I've ever read because it's such a fast read.
Exactly.
And I always, there's another book by Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow.
Right.
And it's...
And that's not so much of an easy read.
These books are pretty similar to each other, but Thinking Fast and Slow is very technical. You read it over maybe a few months because that's how heavy that book is. But this one, The Art of Thinking Clearly, is it's also one of the books that I tell people to buy all the time.
Yeah,
and
it's
so
a
easy
must
to
read.
A must read, definitely. Great. And so that was Rachita's first choice. My first choice of book that really stood out for me was Blue Ocean Strategy by Renee Morborn and W. Chan Kim.
Oh yeah.
This book, I don't know if most people know this, but I dropped out of college. So I never got the chance to go to MBA school or, have that college experience where I could do a kind of structured learning over time.
Yeah.
And so Blue Ocean Strategy, unknown to me, is one of the most recommended management books also in any entrepreneurship course or any business course.
Yeah.
It's one of the books that is a must read if you want to.
Yeah. I also think we are in that blue strip right now. So
right.
There are a lot of opportunities we could take, and this book would really be relevant for that.
That's what really got me thinking about it. The book talks about the Blue Ocean Strategy, where it basically says if you want to really create a monopoly, you should be playing in a field where no one else is playing.
Yeah.
You know, everyone else is competing in the red ocean.
Yeah.
And competing for the same market and competing for the same consumers or users or whatever. But if you can identify a market where no one else is playing at the moment and sort of adapt your business model to inculcate those business practices that would lead you to this blue ocean, is something that really got me thinking. And I think, like you mentioned, we are sort of in a blue ocean with the library project, with the Open Library project, and it's a real revelation, because when there's no one else to set the rules, you don't even land up following the traditional ways of growing your business.
You
so
think
it was
out of the box.
It was complete. It liberated my mind in terms of business as to what is possible and what is not possible.
That's the amazing thing about books, right?
Yeah.
That it's a continuous learning, even if you've done MBA or not done MBA.
Yeah, that's what. And I'm so happy that, in fact, I'm personally very happy that we host this podcast, because it ensures that we are constantly learning, constantly getting exposed to these amazing books that we would have no idea about otherwise. So this book was mentioned by Raj Raman, the author of Smelting Cauldron, in episode 2, as well as Shweta Shalini in episode 14. On that note, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after this.
Did you know that Parsis in Mumbai, instead of being left at the Tower of Silence after they die, are now cremated? And why? Because a cow fell sick in the early 1990s. Did you know that the smog in Delhi is caused by something that farmers in Punjab do, and that there's no way to stop them? Did you know that there wasn't one gas tragedy in Bhopal, but 3? One of them was seen, but 2 were unseen. Did you know that many well-intentioned government policies hurt the people they're supposed to help? Why was demonetization a bad idea? How should GST have been implemented? Why are all our politicians so corrupt when not all of them are bad people? I'm Amit Verma, and in my weekly podcast, The Seen and the Unseen, I take a shot at answering all these questions and many more. I aim to go beyond the seen and show you the unseen effects of public policy and private action. I speak to experts on economics, political philosophy, cognitive neuroscience, and constitutional law, so that the insights can blow not only my mind, but also yours. The Seen and the Unseen releases every Monday. So do check out the archives and follow the show at seenunseen.in. You can also subscribe to The Seen and the Unseen on whatever podcast app you happen to prefer.
Welcome back, guys. Satya, you mentioned, the blue ocean strategy and being in that blue strip, and you have to do things which are going to be different from everybody who's fighting in the red ocean. Right. So another book that talks about being different is Crazy is a Compliment by Linda Rottenberg, where she talks about, how when you're an innovator and you're a person who's creating an idea or creating a, say, concept, people often think you're crazy, and, they think it's something that you can't, oh my God, what are you thinking? This won't work or whatever. Right. But, so she says that crazy is a compliment, and you should take it as a compliment, because every innovator, everybody who's started something new was always considered crazy at some point. Much like, the Onion Night thing that you did. So, initially everybody thought that this would be like a really bold plan, but...
You're using very non-bold words.
It worked out really well for you.
Yeah, in hindsight it worked out really well, but I have to say that at that point when I did take up this title of Onion Night for myself, all my friends thought I had completely lost it. And it's out of their care more than anything. And I understand that. It's out of their care and love for me that they were like, are you all right? This seems totally different from anything anyone else is doing. It was just so different that no one could identify with it. But now in hindsight, 5 years later, it seems like, oh wow, what an amazing move. But trust me, at that point I had to take the crazy as a compliment, because if I didn't, then I would just be taking it so negatively and not being able to really take this idea to where it has reached today.
Yeah, so it's creating a new school of thought, right?
Yeah.
So people are not really comfortable with change.
Yeah.
But so this book was recommended by Tara Khandelwal in the episode number 7. And I think it's a great read for anybody who's in a creative line, especially because that's when you really have to think out of the box. And a must read for all creative people.
Definitely. So the next book I want to talk about is Trust by Tarun Khanna. He's a Harvard professor who's written this book. And the reason that it really stands out for me is because it deals with a lot of the things that we deal with in the Indian subcontinent as well as other developing economies. So there aren't many books while reading to, sort of understand what sort of business practices should I adopt, what is the standard, what is non-standard.
Yeah.
There aren't many books that clearly define this in the context of the Indian subcontinent or developing countries.
Yeah.
But this book really lays it out completely bare, and it takes us through what are the realities of setting up a business in these economies.
Yeah,
And
because, there could be like great strategies that another book is recommending, but it, won't work in our market. So, yeah, it's a very good perspective in that sense.
And not only that, it tells you very, very frankly that, you may have to, in these economies, you may have to pay a bribe.
Yeah.
You may have to compromise on all the compliance that in the West or in European countries you cannot compromise on.
Yeah.
But in these countries, it's sort of a norm, or it's a given that you do it, because that's how things have been working. Not that it's right or wrong. It's just how things function.
Right.
It's not about, are you doing it?
Yeah, it's not about your moral compass. But
It's... So at some point, even while running businesses, you find that your moral compass is challenged.
Yeah.
Especially in where trust, like the book says, you have to develop trust in other ways than the ways that they exist. So these economies are flourishing.
Yeah.
And they have found alternate ways to gain or garner this trust amongst businesses as well as their consumers.
Yeah.
So
I think it's probably also the processes that, they're very clearly defined.
Very clearly.
Yeah.
It just it opened my eyes to the things that I thought were very uncommon, but after reading the book I realized how common they are across different countries.
Yeah.
So this book I definitely recommend, and this book was
to Indian entrepreneurs especially.
Especially to all Indian entrepreneurs. It was in the episode where we had Anjali Raina, episode number 8 of Paperback. We had Anjali Raina, the executive director of Harvard, recommending this book to us. So I suggest that everyone picks it up and reads it. Yeah.
Yeah. Since you mentioned episode 8, I have a couple of favorites in that episode actually.
Okay.
But I'll talk about Play to Win by Larry Wilson first. Yeah. So this book has had a huge impact on me. When I spoke about this book on the podcast, I hadn't read it till then. And then after that, when I read the book, I feel like it gave me a whole new perspective about... there is Secret by Rhonda Byrne.
Yeah.
And this is just more of a management-based book, but talking about the same concept. So Play to Win also talks about, being positive and having a positive thinking, which sort of works into your thought process and then eventually your results. So the book talks about how we should play to win and not play to not lose,
right?
Because a lot of people in this world are living in the fear of rejection. So we don't want to take up something because we feel like, what if I can't do it? Or, what if I fail? What will people think? So we don't pursue things which we feel would be, too ambitious or too risky,
too out of the
maybe.
box,
Yeah,
or,
yeah. So I just love how this book brings in a lot of positivity that... it gives the example of cattle and how they always stay within a fence because they feel like, I don't want to take the risk of taking that leap. But that's not a mindset we should have, and we should work towards, a win strategy, like play to win. So I would recommend this book to everybody who is trying to run their own business because it brings in a lot of positivity and I just wrote an article on how you should take the risk of optimism on Thrive Global, and I really think this book is a must read for every budding entrepreneur.
Yeah, you've written a great article on how you started your journey and how to up your risk.
Thanks.
And it's something that we all need to do in if we are in leadership roles in companies, right? You have to lead by example, and if you as the leader are not playing to win, then your company definitely will not be playing to win.
Yeah.
So definitely must read for me too. And on that note, we're going to take another break, and we'll be right back after this.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you are not following us on social media, please make sure that you do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So we have something really exciting in store for Star Wars fans. After a successful first edition of the Geek Fruit Cantina, we're back with another. Come celebrate Star Wars Day with us. That's May the 4th with Geek Fruit at the Cuckoo Cafe in Bandra. That's in Mumbai. We have a super fun evening planned with a live podcast featuring special guests, Star Wars merchandise up for grabs, Thinkers games, along with Star Wars themed food and cocktails. You don't want to miss this. This week on The Seen and the Unseen, Amit Verma's guest is economist and researcher Ajay Shah. The two of them talk about zombie firms and banks artificially kept alive by taxpayers. They also take a look at the recent collapse of Jet Airways. On the second episode of the Ronnie Screwvala podcast, Dreaming with Your Eyes Open, Ronnie Screwvala talks to me about the importance of failure, how age shouldn't be a deterrent for entrepreneurship, and setting the right expectations for your venture. On IVM Likes, Janam, Abhineet, and Madhuri discuss the gut-wrenching Netflix original series Delhi Crime. On Shunya One, Sheila Ditya and I are joined by Gaurav Jalan, founder and CEO of M-Pocket. We talk about the current tech scenario in Kolkata and also get into the technicalities of M-Pocket. On Advertising is Dead, Varun talks to Advait Gupta, co-founder and CEO of Supari Studios, about branded and purpose-driven content. On the Filter Coffee podcast, Karthik is joined by Siddharth Deshmukh, who shares his experience at MICA, both as a student and as a media professor. He talks about liberal education. In Echoes of India, Anirudh explains how brilliant political and religious innovations in 5th century India led to a spurt of temple building. On Croc Tales last week, Anand Sivakumara reveals the last part of his tale's psycho girlfriend and begins another multi-part story on Anita's toothache. And with that, let's move on with your shows.
Welcome back, guys. This is a special episode of Paperback where we're recapping our favorite reads from the show so far. And the next book I want to talk about is Technically Wrong by Sarah Waterbecker. So a little tough.
It's very
Name's
technically tough.
It's technically difficult to say that name. But we had Arun Kale, the founder and editor of Helter Skelter, speak about this on episode 14. And so this book was a revelation for me because I had no idea that we were building in sexist biases or racist biases into our technology, because how is that even possible, right?
Yeah.
How do you build bias into technology? And it just struck me that, if this book is even close to as right as it seems, then we really need to rethink our technology at this stage now, because in a few years, this technology will have scaled to all these technologies. In fact, what the book talks about is how in Silicon Valley, it's racist and sexist algorithms are being built in because it's just a group of white guys doing the programming. Right? There's no diversity in that group. You're not taking into account other perspectives from other races, from other stratas of life. And it just becomes very like these guys, all these coders, they have the same sort of lives or same sort of issues, right? It doesn't take in all the diverse, complex scenarios that exist in our world, and technology as such is scaling up pretty quickly. And if we don't check this at this point, it will be very difficult to, sort of correct these biases once the technologies have reached sort of scale.
Yeah.
So definitely a book that changed my thinking on a lot of things, especially since I love technology, and it just got me thinking about how this could be happening. And
we're taking like the next step, right, with artificial intelligence and all of that. So this is the time. I think that this
to
book
check
would be
ourselves
really
as humans. Right.
So the next book I would like to talk about is again from episode 7 by the episode with Tara Khandelwal. The book's name is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Now, Elizabeth Gilbert is an absolutely, I think, amazing author. I really like her first book, which was Eat, Pray, Love, and it was, iconic in itself. Big Magic also, works on how you should be redefining your thought process, and it's divided in 6 parts. So it talks about courage, and it talks about enhancement, it talks about persistence, trust, and all of that. So the crux of the book is that it talks about how creative learning has to go beyond fear. So if you're a creative person and you want to write, or you want to act, or you want to paint, then you have to go beyond those boundaries that, of perception, and be creative, and that's when your true, talent will come out. So it also again talks about the law of attraction, in terms of that, if you start imagining an idea, it actually culminates into a product, or whatever field that you belong to, maybe a painting, or maybe actually going and acting somewhere. So it's a must read for people who are in the creative field, or who want to try and build a creative say hobby. I think this would be perfect for them.
Yeah, we find across so many books the same sort of message being delivered in so many different ways, While hosting the podcast over the last few months, I've realized that a lot of the books talk about the same thing, but
in different perspectives, right?
With a different individual perspective of that human, or how they went through, or how they perceive this information, and how they explain it best in their books and it's amazing. I mean, I never realized that there was such a common theme flowing through so many different books from different genres. So that's fantastic.
Which is what is amazing about books, because even when you're reading it as a reader, also you will take different messages and different lessons from the book. So
definitely,
it's great.
Definitely. So the next book I want to talk about, one of my personal favorites of all time, is 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. So this book was mentioned by Dikshant Vivedi on episode 6 of Paperback, and so 0 to 1 is it got me going on contrarian thinking. And that's the reason why I really recommend this book to anyone. It's a little technical when you read it, and it's a little dry when you read it in terms of how it's written, and it is technical. It's just a technical book, and Peter Thiel is.
We can see a trend here. It's like thinking fast and slow, technically wrong. You like the technical books.
Definitely do. So 0 to 1, while being technical, is still simple in the context of technical books. So it really gets you thinking on what you should be questioning and how you should be questioning everything.
Yeah.
Before just assuming what information is given to you, you should be questioning each and everything, and that's what the book really talks about. Peter Thiel is one of my personal heroes because of the companies that he set up, PayPal, and he's an investor in Facebook and a lot of other things. So this is a book I recommend to anyone when they're starting their journey.
Yeah.
Starting their journey of entrepreneurship or any new thing in life you're starting, you should pick up this book and sort of calibrate your thinking to question things.
I think personally and professionally, everybody should have a 0 to 1 benchmark, decided for themselves.
Definitely.
And the last book that I would want to talk about is my absolute favorite book, which is How Will You Measure Your Life by Clayton Christensen. This was also a book recommended by Anjali Raina in episode 8 of Paperback. This book is, I think, a very 360-degree holistic approach on a fulfilled life. So what I love about the book is that it talks about 4 quadrants of our life, which is success and failure, and fulfillment and depression. And most of the people are in the spectrum of success and failure. They feel that if they are successful in life, they will be happy. But he says that if you are really measuring your life, you should be between 2 quadrants, which is success and fulfillment. So, and you cannot be happy if one is independent of the other, because they go together, and that's when it's going to be a truly fulfilling life. So I think it's a book that would really inspire people to try and excel in every aspect of their life, and that's why I would recommend this book. And also, there's a part in the book where he is comparing business to life, and says that, it's the way you treat your business, it's not actually very different from the way you should be treating your personal relationships. So, there are really valuable relationships that we have, and we sort of take them for granted because we don't see a tangible result.
Right.
So if you love somebody and you want to spend, say, every Sunday, say, with your parents, and you feel like it's not going to give you any tangible result, so if you have a meeting, you'll be like, I'll postpone this Sunday and go for that meeting. But
Right.
he says that that's a really wrong approach to have, because even though they don't give you an immediate result, these are the relationships which make your life fulfilled. So
Right.
they should be given the same kind of
Importance as well.
that you would give, a meeting at work. So I would recommend this book to everybody, and I think it's a book which you should read every couple of years, and yeah.
Just to recalibrate yourself.
Yeah.
Are you chasing your fulfillment and success?
Yeah, it's just an assessment of yourself.
Yeah. And it's a really small book. You can really read through it quickly.
Yeah, it's
quick
not
read.
even a 10-minute read.
It's
yeah.
a 10-15 minute read
Yeah.
at best. And great book. So the house that Jack Ma built is a favorite of mine for many reasons. One of them being that I'm a huge fan of Jack Ma. And I'm not, like Diksha also mentioned on the show when she came on the show, that one of the reasons that she liked the book is that when it was the first time a tech founder is actually saying that, hey, I don't know anything about tech.
Yeah.
You know what? I run this behemoth, the biggest tech company in the world, Alibaba. But I personally don't know, like Jack Ma says, I personally don't know that much about technology.
He knows his strengths and weaknesses.
So that's what's amazing about Jack Ma, is that it's not only about strengths and weaknesses, it's also about, hey, I'm human, I fail all the time.
Yeah.
And that thought
Yeah.
was just liberating for me. That even a guy at the top level of business is saying that, what, I am not perfect. None of us are perfect. And failure is a part of the journey.
Yeah.
And something that wasn't really spoken about a lot before. Maybe 5 years back, no one was talking about failure. And I found such great solace or, comfort reading these things. And he says a lot of things that people may find would have never shared about themselves.
Yeah.
He says that I was an English teacher, so no one... He says, first of all, about his exams. He couldn't pass his exams. So that's why the only job he got was this English teacher job.
Yeah.
Then he talks about how he had to gain trust in a, according to me, impossible situation, because you're sort of selling the internet to people.
Right.
And there's no internet in China yet. So how are you even going to sell it? So it's unbelievable the kind of success he has achieved.
Yeah.
And honestly, this guy, Jack Ma, he's nuts. Like, I don't have any better way to describe him. You should see, there are some videos of his company shareholders meetings, okay? And you should just see what he does. Like, it's a ceremony. He opens it with Lion King montages with him dressed up, and like it's insane. Like, this guy is totally nuts, and I love
He
it.
even, I think, gave stake to his secretary, right? In his
Oh, yeah.
company.
When he did go public, I think all the Alibaba employees have been
Yeah. I
really
think,
taken
yeah,
care of.
the
He takes
culture.
care of his employees. And also one more thing that he said was that, I am not, my thoughts are not just my thoughts. They're a collection of my exposure to the people around me. So they are everyone's thoughts combined through my brain.
Of course.
So that I found quite profound.
Yeah.
And so this book really, after reading this book, I really started thinking about failure. And, I've had so many failures in my life myself. So it gave me
Fail
the
better.
courage. Yeah. So it gave me the courage to, so I've also written my own book now. I've written the Onion Knight story, and
Finally.
it's called Onion Knight Live, Burn, Learn. It'll be out soon, in a month or so. And this book really gave me the freedom to talk about my failures. And, not in a way that, I failed and, I'm feeling bad about it. It's more like, oh, hey, I failed in these ways and this is what I learned.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to repeat these same failures in these same ways. I'm going to fail in many new different ways,
Yeah.
and they'll be probably way more what do you say, way more drastic than these ones in my journey so far. But the thing is that this book really gave me the opportunity to understand failure as a tool to learn.
I think it's all about accepting that, you can fail and it's okay to fail, and you just have to pick yourself up and
it's difficult. It's difficult in leadership roles to sort of accept failure or be okay with it.
Yeah.
But after reading The House That Jack Ma Built, I was just blown away because he was so honest about his shortcomings, and all of us are humans. We all have our own shortcomings. So you shouldn't be too hard on yourself. You should take it in your stride and take it ahead as it comes. And
we can't wait for your book.
Thank you. It'll be out soon. I hope it's a good read. So these are our favorite reads from the Paperback episode so far. I hope you guys have a chance to pick them up. And if you do have any thoughts about books that you all are reading or books that you want to suggest to us, please drop in a message on the IVM podcast app. And a big thank you to all our listeners. You can follow the Open Library Project on LinkedIn, Instagram and Facebook for latest updates on our events, and stay tuned for the next Paperback podcast on IVM Podcasts. Happy reading. You can follow IVM Podcast on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at IVM Podcasts.
Who said healthy food is boring? Who said raw veggies is just salads? Who said eating fats makes you fat? Look forward to my recommendations on healthy food and exercise hacks on the Kinetic Living podcast with me, Coach Urmi, every Wednesday on the IVM app, website, and anywhere you get your podcast from.
Advertising is dead. Yep, you heard me right. Advertising is dead. We're all in the content business now. Let's not call it news, TV, radio, etc., etc. It's all content, and we're in the middle of this weirdly exciting phase where all the borders and lines that have been drawn over decades has been swept away by this lovely thing called the internet. We're a show where we don't dwell on just the stuff that is now, but rather the wider stuff about advertising, media, content, and the whole goddamn circus surrounding it. Tune in every Tuesday for our weekly unboxing of the mystery box we used to call advertising. I'm Varun Dugirala, co-founder and content chief at The Glitch, and this is my new podcast, Advertising is Dead.